Your net worth is supposed to be near zero right now. And that is not the problem. That is the setup. Somewhere online, a chart told you the average 20-something is worth a fortune, you did the sinking math, and you decided everyone else got a head start you missed. I want to take that whole feeling apart today because your 20s are not the decade you fall behind. They are the single most valuable decade of money you will ever live through, worth more, in the end, than all the others combined. And almost nobody realizes it while they are standing inside it. Let me show you why the number you have now barely matters, and what actually does. Here is the plan for the next few minutes. First, I will place you exactly where you stand on the map of a whole financial life and give you two honest numbers for people under 35, not one, because the single number you have seen is lying to you. Then I will hand you 6 unlocks, 6 things that are true in your 20s and quietly stop being true in every decade after. 1. Near zero is completely normal. 2. Time is the one asset you will never have this much of again. 3. Watch your savings rate, not your balance. 4. High-interest debt is a compounding machine running in reverse. 5. The first $10,000 is escape velocity. And 6. Right now you are building a machine, not a pile. Then I will give you the boring, repeatable recipe to beat the median in this exact decade. Let us start at the bottom of the hill. Picture net worth across an entire life as a hill. It starts near zero in your 20s, climbs slowly through your 30s, accelerates hard through your 40s and 50s, peaks somewhere in your late 60s, and gently descends after that. Every episode in this series marks where on that hill you are standing, and you, under 35, are at the very bottom of the climb, boots on, looking up at the whole thing. That is not a bad place to be. It is the only place everyone starts. The person at the summit was standing exactly where you are now, decades ago. The bottom of the hill is not where you lost. It is where the climb begins and where you have the most trail left in front of you. Now the numbers, and they always come as a pair. The average net worth for households under 35 is around $183,000. If that figure just dropped your stomach through the floor, hold on, because here is the antidote. The median, the real person standing in the exact middle of everyone your age, is only about $39,000. Look at that gap. The average is nearly 5 times the median. That is the widest distortion on the entire chart of any age group, and it exists for one clean reason. A handful of young founders who sold companies and a few heirs sitting on family money yanked the average up into the stratosphere, while the typical young person sits far, far below it. So when someone posts that average and asks why you are not there yet, they are quietly comparing you to a room full of rare outliers. The median is you. The median is the honest number, and the median is the number you are actually going to beat. Unlock 1. Near zero is normal, and being underwater is arithmetic, not failure. A huge share of people under 35 have a negative net worth. They owe more than they own. And I need you to hear how ordinary that is, because the internet has quietly convinced you it is a personal disaster. It is not. Think about the actual sequence of a young life. The student loans land first, often tens of thousands of them, before you have earned a single paycheck. Then a car loan, so you can physically get to the job. Then the first credit card, the deposit on the first apartment, the moving costs, the furniture. All of that arrives before your income has had one single year to grow into it. Of course, the number is negative. The debts showed up early and the paycheck showed up small. That is a timing mismatch, not a character flaw. That is not you failing at money. It is the normal opening position of the game, the same position almost everyone starts from. If you owe more than you own right now, you are not behind the pack. You are standing in the exact middle of it. The typical young household is barely above the starting line, and the starting line is precisely where you are supposed to be standing at this age. So we are going to stop treating a near zero number as evidence of anything except how young you are. It is a fact about time, not a verdict about you. And once you see that, the scary chart loses its grip. Unlock 2, and this is the big one. The reason this whole decade outweighs the others. Time is the asset you will never have this much of again. Here is the thing nobody tells a 25-year-old clearly enough. The most valuable thing you own right now is not in your bank account. It is the decades in front of you. Compounding, money making money, which then makes more money on top of that, needs one ingredient above all others. And that ingredient is time, not skill, not a genius stock pick, not a big salary, time. $1 invested at 25 has roughly 40 years to double and double again and again. $1 invested at 45 has half as many doublings left, and the difference in the outcome is not double, it is enormous, because the last doublings are by far the biggest ones. A balance can quietly go from $250,000 to $500,000 in that final stretch, and that leap only happens if the clock started early. This is the exact reason your 20s are worth more than all the other decades combined. You are the richest you will ever be in the one currency that actually drives the outcome, and you are spending it whether you notice or not. The 60-year-old watching this would trade a serious chunk of their net worth to buy back the decades you are sitting on right now for free. And they simply cannot. Nobody can. You do not have much money at this age, but you own more time than you ever will again, and time is the thing that does the real heavy lifting. Unlock 3. At this age, watch your savings rate, not your balance. Your balance right now is almost meaningless as a signal. It is small for everyone, it is noisy, and one surprise car repair can erase a whole year of it overnight. So staring at the balance will only depress you and tell you almost nothing about where you are headed. The number that actually predicts your future at this age is your savings rate. The percentage of what you earn that you manage to keep and invest instead of spend. Here is why the rate wins so decisively. The balance is a snapshot of the past. Everything you have already done. Frozen. The rate is the engine of the future. It tells you what is going to happen next, over and over, every month. Someone earning $30,000 who saves 15% of it is building a far more powerful machine than someone earning $80,000 who saves nothing, even though the second person looks richer today and would win a screenshot contest. The rate is the habit, and the habit is what compounds quietly decade after decade after decade. And here is the genuinely liberating part. The rate is something you can control right now, this month, at any income at all. You cannot conjure a big balance out of thin air. That takes years you have not lived yet. But you can decide today what percentage of the very next paycheck goes toward your future self. Track that one number. Nudge it up a single point at a time. In your 20s, the rate is the whole game, and the balance just quietly follows it around. Unlock 4. High-interest debt is the anti-compounding machine, and you have to kill it first. Everything I just told you about compounding, about money quietly making more money over the decades, works in exactly the opposite direction when you carry high-interest debt. A credit card charging 20-something% is compounding too, except it is compounding against you. It is the same engine, the same math, just pointed the wrong way, and it never once sleeps. While your investments might earn you, say, 7 or 8% a year on a good long-term average, that card is charging you 20% or more, guaranteed, whether the market is up or down. There is no investment on earth that reliably beats paying off a 20% debt, because paying it off is itself a guaranteed 20% return with zero risk. Nothing legal comes close. So the order of operations in your 20s genuinely matters. High-interest debt comes first. You attack it like your entire future depends on it, because in a real sense, it does. Every single month that balance survives, it is quietly eating the exact compounding you are trying to build on the other side of your finances. This is not about shame, and I want to be clear about that. Plenty of good, careful, hard-working people end up with a balance on a card through no great sin of their own. It is about sequence, not blame. You simply cannot fill a bucket that has a burning hole in the bottom. Kill the anti-compounding machine first, then let the real one run free. Unlock 5. The first $10,000 is escape velocity, and it is the hardest 10 grand you will ever save. Everyone loves to talk about the first 100,000 being the milestone that changes everything, but for you, right now, standing near zero, the real barrier is the first 10. Here is why it feels almost impossible. At the very start, your money is doing none of the work for you. Every single dollar in that account got there because you personally put it there, one painful deposit at a time, out of a paycheck that already felt too small. The interest, the growth, the compounding, it is basically nothing yet because $10 of growth on a tiny balance is a number you cannot even feel. So the first stretch is pure, slow, unglamorous grind with no momentum helping you at all. This is exactly where the overwhelming majority of people quit because it feels like shoving a boulder that never starts rolling on its own. All effort, no reward. But push through it, and something quietly shifts. Once you have a real base saved and invested, the growth on it starts to become genuinely visible. Not life-changing yet, but real and clearly no longer zero. The account starts adding money you did not deposit yourself. That is the moment the boulder crests the top of the slope and begins, faintly at first, to roll under its own weight. That is escape velocity. The first 10,000 is the slowest, hardest, most thankless money of your entire financial life. And it is also the single most important, because absolutely everything after it gets easier. Unlock 6, and it ties the whole decade together. In your 20s, you are building the machine, not the pile. Here is the trap almost everyone falls straight into. They judge their 20s entirely by the size of the pile, the balance, the number, the thing you can screenshot and compare, and measured that way, every single person in their 20s is failing, because the pile is genuinely tiny for all of us at this age. But the pile is simply the wrong thing to be building right now. What you are actually building in this decade, the real asset, is the machine, the system, the set of habits, the automatic, boring, monthly behavior that will spend the next 40 years quietly manufacturing the pile for you while you live your life. The automatic transfer that moves money the very day you get paid before your brain can spend it. The account that invests that money into broad, boring index funds without you having to think about it or feel brave. The reflex that treats a raise as a chance to save a little more, not spend a little more. That machine is nearly invisible today, and it produces almost nothing you can see or brag about. But it is the thing that matters. A 25-year-old with $2,000 and a running machine will absolutely crush a 25-year-old with $10,000 and no system at all, given enough time. And time is the one thing you have. So build the machine now, while it is cheap to build and while you have the most decades left to let it run. Do that, and the pile takes care of itself. So how do you actually beat the median in your 20s? How do you get ahead of that $39,000 middle person? The recipe is boring, and that is the good news because boring is repeatable. Here it is, tuned to this exact decade. First, kill the high-interest debt before anything else, because nothing you invest can outrun a 20% card. Second, build a small buffer, even $1,000, so the next flat tire does not become the next credit card balance and drag you right back underwater. Third, automate the investing. Set a percentage of every paycheck to move itself into broad, low-cost index funds the day it lands, before your brain gets a vote. Start with whatever you can, even a tiny amount, because at your age, the habit matters more than the number. Fourth, protect your savings rate from lifestyle creep as your income grows. When the raise comes, send the difference to your future self before you upgrade your life. And fifth, be patient through the first 10,000, because that is the stretch where the machine feels like it is doing nothing and quitting feels reasonable. Do those 5 things and you will pass the median well before this decade is over. Not because you got lucky or picked a hot stock, but because most people your age never started the machine at all. The bar is not a windfall. The bar is consistency, and you can clear it starting with the very next paycheck. So tell me in the comments, where do you stand right now? Above the median, below it, or still building your way there? Wherever you are on the hill, the next dollar you invest moves you up it. This is education, not financial advice. Just the map, laid out honestly. Next time we climb into your 30s, the decade your income finally rises, your paychecks finally feel real, and your net worth mysteriously stalls anyway. The decade the trap springs. I will see you there.